So that was the trailer for Onsen Master. We got Derrick on the line. The game looks super fun and amazing. What is happening, Derrick? How you doing? You got your situation set up properly. I see that. I see you out there.
People keep calling me out for this setup. It's not.
They
not
call
that
me.
Spectacular.
They call me. Yeah, at my place. I just got a janky mic and a pop stopper. All you need is a pop stopper, and they think on a phone, and they're like, "Look at this guy."
Yeah, every time I load up. But thank you for having me. And how's it going?
It's going well. It's great to see Onsen Master. It looks amazing. It was great speaking with you the other day, and just want to shoot the shiznits and talk about your game and stuff. And you're in Ohio, right?
No, so I'm originally from Ohio. So shout out to the original Ohio fan. But I live in Chicago. I've been in Chicago for about 10 years now.
Dope.
Yeah.
So how did you get started in game development?
So it started in college for me. I was going to school for illustration. When we spoke originally, I was talking about how I started at Columbus College of Art and Design. Yeah. I decided that illustration, as much as I love it, it wasn't the path that I wanted to be on. And I started to explore, what else I could do. And so 3D modeling took its turn for me. Later on in college, I transferred colleges, trying to find the right space that I wanted to be in. And then somewhere down the road, just kept trying to develop my portfolio, get involved in games where I can, and wasn't finding jobs. I wasn't getting into anything. And so it took a bit of a hiatus for a little bit. And then I told myself, I got to make something if I can't get into anything. And that's where Onsen Master kind of started for me.
That's awesome. How long have you been working on the game?
If I'm being completely honest, Onsen Master started maybe somewhere around 6 years ago. And just, a small personal project. It was me and my roommate. Shout out to Tim if he's in the chat. But he was my roommate at the time. And we were kind of dabbling on the project together. And, a couple of years went on, we got on another friend. Shout out to Leo for helping us bring it and program things together. But it really took to fruition, once we felt like we had something and we were like, okay, let's start to talk about it. Let's see if we can get involved in other events. And I think that was probably about, 3-4 years ago. Yeah.
That's cool. And so the game is to be released, or is it released already?
No, it's coming out later this year. So about late fall is when we're going to be looking to release it.
That's awesome. So what was your inspiration to create this game? Because I wouldn't have known. I love Japanese culture myself. So
sure.
And onsen, that's I've been to some onsens in Kyoto and things like that. So it's interesting that you chose this theme.
Oh, right. Okay, so and I gotta take a mental note from my wife. She told me to make sure I slow down when I talk, because I'll just fly through shit otherwise. But Onsen Master, the original inspiration for it for me came from Spirited Away. I'm a huge fan of Ghibli films. I really appreciate the personal aspect that Ghibli films present. A family-friendly narrative to something that's palatable for all audiences. And so when wanting to create a video game that was kind of indicative of that, I was asking myself, how can I create a project that is also, family friendly, but makes representation normal. And so, featuring Black and brown individuals, as the standard characters that are in the story and involved in the narratives that will be at play at the game. And then, there's other anime and JRPG inspirations that play there. I take a lot of inspiration from Persona and Persona Q for, how their treatment of kind of that visual novel narrative and all that kind of stuff. So,
That's super awesome. How about Waking Oni? How did you create that?
Yeah. That one's a weird layered story. Or I guess not weird, but like, so it, originally I did illustration, and that was the name that I went by for illustration, just Waking Oni. And I get it sounds a little cliche when I explain it out loud, but wanting to create games and presenting myself as an artist was kind of my own kind of personal awakening. So yeah, that's like really cliche, but I was trying to figure out, what type of content that I wanted to create, who I am as an individual and who I am as an artist. The Oni part of it is both because the word Oni resides in both Japanese and African cultures, specifically Yoruba. And so there's a lot of cool parallels between the name and what both of those meanings have if you were to like kind of jump into looking those up. And so I kind of mashed those two things together. Oni also has a bit of background for me in being a Black individual and talking about, let's say, the first Oni in Japanese folklore is Shuten Doji. And so it's a story about this individual who gets kind of outcasted from society, and then they become an Oni and they're recruiting like ruffians and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, you know what, like, as a Black individual, sometimes I kind of feel like an Oni. Sometimes I do. And that's where I put that all together. So that's like the first time I've had to explain that naming to anybody else before.
Awesome. So if you're talking to other students of color who are trying to get into this business, what advice would you provide them with as well? I've asked this some other folks we had on the show, but I want to get each of the developers' perspective on this, because I think you guys all have unique experiences.
Yeah, thank you. So, one of the things that I do outside of game development is I teach anime drawing classes at the Japanese Arts Foundation here. And one of the things that's important to me is ensuring that there's accessibility of resources to those students and accessibility of resources to anybody else that's online and interested in where they can get involved. And so for other students that are, pursuant of wanting to get involved in games or even prototype, some of the personal dream ideas that they've had, I would say, absolutely hit YouTube, hit Unity, start learning Blender, depending on what sort of trade you want to go into, 3D modeling or programming. All of those resources are out there and available. And at this point, just a Google search away now. But I would personally suggest, starting with Unity. They have a lot of, free online tutorial classes, and YouTube has been a huge asset for me in wanting to get involved. Another thing that has helped me get in touch with other developers and individuals is speaking up on Twitter and just chatting with people and mingling whenever you can. I think that would be probably the key ones. And if at all possible, I understand that traveling is, not an available resource for everybody. It's expensive, but if there's local events that are happening, show your face, just be a part of them, and they'll lead to the bigger ones.
How has your experience been, maneuvering through the industry, as a person of color? That's something it's always interesting to see how people relate and maneuver and traverse different scenarios and stuff,
Right. We're all doing something a little different, and then something a lot of the same. And so what everybody else has spoke to as far as how they navigate the space, especially at a conference or at a developer event, it's been the same for me. This year would have been my first year at GDC, but unfortunately COVID kind of canceled all those plans, and And so, I'm looking forward to getting involved in the other things that happen throughout the rest of the year and then some. But getting involved into them had been, again, it's going to echo what everybody said here, walking into a space, or big room, small room, and counting how many other Black individuals are in that space, and, immediately wanting to connect with them, but not just stopping there, wanting to make sure that I am, meeting and networking with individuals of all backgrounds and all types, because, making those connections are important. And those are the exact connections that have helped me, get Onto Master off the ground. Shout out to Game Devs of Color. Shout out to Sean for, all the feedback that you've given me on that project. That, it wouldn't be here without those individuals.
Besides social media, what other networks are you using to connect sort of communities of color and developers of color?
Yeah, specifically in Chicago, I am doing my best to get involved and stay involved in any community events that are, promoting technology education for, Black and brown individuals, students from underfunded neighborhoods. So there's been a lot of game events specifically at the University of Chicago that I've been involved in, and other things kind of in that same sphere. What I want for Waking Oni specifically is exactly that, to be able to create games and have a space that can also advocate for young creators that want to be in it, that can see individuals creating things that look like them. And so I hope to be able to have Waking Oni, as a physical space, at some point in time, and be able to offer that time, for young kids who are, they don't know yet that they can be a developer as well.
That's cool. I think that's what's interesting, is it kind of reverberates through everyone that we spoke with, is, we're really just trying to grind and be game developers and artists first, right? And that's why I didn't know what Waking Oni was, and that kind of thing, and that it came from another person of color. But it's just super interesting to see that besides when things happen in society or things happen in the world, we don't really necessarily focus on that until we're like in a space where we're trying to connect and socialize and network and that type of thing. So it's good to kind of to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Any other things that you're involved in besides sort of the game development that you think are important to your craft specifically? Like, are there hobbies that sort of feed your creative side?
Other hobbies, it for Onto Master for game development, mostly it's just been kind of, you kind of have to wear all the different hats, anything that goes into the production of it. And so not just the art side, but game design and project management is other things that I have to be concerned with. But hobby side, I have a huge passion for studying Japanese language, lore, and the culture, as per my involvement with the Japanese Arts Foundation. And so that's creatively, it feeds a lot into a lot of the projects that I do, and a lot of the stuff that I create. I think those intersections always exist for me, and I'm constantly trying to figure out how can I explore them further while, continuing to create a platform for, other Black and brown individuals.
That's super dope. You have like a wealth of experience and culture that you're like pulling from all over to make something that's great. Thank you so much. Hopefully we could play the game at another time, and showcase the game. We would love to do that. Thank you for sharing everything with us. And it's now on Steam for wish listing, correct?
Right, you can wish list it on Steam. We're working on, some additional levels other than the one that was just featured here a moment ago. And so we still have some more updates on the way, but just follow us online for catching up on all that information, and you can look forward to it later this year.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Derrick, for joining us. We appreciate you coming through and taking the time. It's been awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.